Hello and welcome to this episode of Star Wars Generations. We are dancing to the intro music. We are going live on the Ethical Panda Facebook channel. We're hopefully going to be going live on a YouTube channel pretty soon, and we are here to talk about Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 4. It is myself, Matthew Fox, Aaron McGowan, and Alex Corman. Folks, what do we think?
I thought it was great. I mean, what I will say is I really appreciated the fact that there wasn't any like dilly-dallying with like getting the band back together. Like one episode, make it compelling, show like character growth in both Crosshair and Omega, show their bond getting stronger, get them back to the main Bad Batch and get us going with the story. Like I didn't need 4 episodes of them like trying to get connected. So like I was very, very pleased with this episode overall.
Yeah, I feel like it's the final season. We don't have time for that bullshit right now. Like, we got to get the gang back together and we got to get going on this Hemlock issue.
Yo.
But this episode, great. I got some great one-liners and multi-liners I've written down today.
I'm looking forward to hearing those. It was a great episode. I love the energy. I completely agree that getting the band back together and not having a whole will they, won't they thing going on in terms of like when are they going to actually meet up is really good. I don't think we're ready to go after Hemlock. I think we've got an episode of let's get the brothers around a table, and Omega is like, no, Daddy and Daddy and Daddy and Daddy shouldn't be fighting. I guess it's just the 3 of them right now. But you know, like
Daddy and a strange uncle.
Well, that too. But clearly she's going to be the one who sees the good in all of them because.
Yep.
Oh my God, how can your heart not like be full for Crosshair now? Like in terms of the ways, in thinking of what they would have to do to redeem him to the rest of us, like I think they'd already come a long way after what he did with Mayday in season 2. But seeing him like being the grumpy, reluctant guy, but who still like comes around on her this episode, it was just so good. It was so good.
It's kind of that classic trope of like the young innocent, child kind of wearing down the edges on the old grumpy man.
Yeah.
But I appreciated it.
I saw a meme earlier today that was like the Spider-Men pointing at each other meme, but it was like Hunter pointing at Kanan and Din Djarin. And then clutching to their legs was like Ezra Bridger and Grogu and Omega.
I love it.
That's actually incredible.
And Pedro Pascal can't actually play all 3 of them. Sometimes someone else has to be the grumpy dad who is willing to take a magical child across the universe.
Exactly.
We're going to talk more about the specifics of the episode, but I want to just say a quick word. On video, you're seeing this for Superhero Ethics, but all this is the same for both of our podcasts. This is obviously an Ethical Panda podcast. If you go to theethicalpanda.com, you'll find all the ways to give us feedback. We love hearing from you. We have some feedback that we're going to read probably during our next episode. We're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram. You can email us directly at either Matthew@theethicalpanda.com or at feedback@theethicalpanda.com. I just created that. We'll be switching over. And of course, everything about this podcast you can find at theethicalpanda.com. There you'll also find how to become a member. For only $5 a month or $55 a year. As a member, you get bonus content, you get ad-free content, and you're now getting full episodes that are just for our members. At least once a month, we're doing the book club here on Star Wars. We're going to do something special over on Superhero Ethics as well, just for $5 a month. So if you enjoy this podcast, think about becoming a member. Think about liking or sharing or letting other people know, and think about leaving us a review. Now, back to our discussion.
Back indeed.
Yeah, I thought it was. I'll just kick it off by thinking I think it was cool to see both like Crosshair and Omega kind of like leaning into their skill set. I also completely forgot like until it happened that Omega was like just like god at card games.
Gambling.
Are they playing Sabacc? Or are they playing?
No, that is definitely not Sabacc. It is a different kind of game.
Okay. Well,
isn't
whatever.
Sabacc the one with the little goblins?
No, that's
no, that's like their version of Battle Chess or something.
Yeah,
like
it's called something with a D.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, either one. But whatever she's playing, I forgot that she's a hustler. And like she just pulled up and just queened out of that bar. And it was like a fun little, I think in the past, the Bad Batch, in my opinion, has suffered a little bit from a lot of like, not meaningless, but kind of just like kind of silly side episodes where like they've gone on these little side quests, and I've like wanted to kind of get back to the point. And this episode felt like a really good balance of like, yeah, there's a little bit of silly side questing going on, but it really had a purpose. There was character growth, and it got them back to Hunter and Wrecker all in kind of one 25-minute shot, which I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, that's very impressive to make that all work.
The Omega in the gambling scene, I just loved, especially because I think this was mentioned in a movie, but definitely has been mentioned in a number of the books by now, including ones in the Disney canon, that Force users are very strictly forbidden from gambling because the Force, precognition and all the kind of mental stuff just gives you a huge, huge advantage. And so especially like watching Omega do this, she doesn't know this by any means. And technically, if there's any rules whatsoever, it probably says a 12-year-old girl can't gamble, but fair enough. But watching her, probably part of why she's good is the reasons why it should be illegal for her to gamble. But all these people are trying to take her money, so I'm not complaining. I just love it for her.
You say cheating, I say competitive advantage.
Oh, I call it using your resources. Yeah, no, this episode was just entertaining top to bottom. I watched it twice today. The first line that stuck out to me, it has been in my head all day. I've been thinking about it all day because I think it's so funny, is when they go on the planet, and she's like, we have to blend in. We are wearing prison uniforms. And he's like, ugh, I don't feel like it, but whatever. So she goes and steals them clothes, and then they get changed, and she goes, see, isn't this better? He goes, no. Isn't this better? No. And she went, ugh.
He's just solidly in grumpy dad territory. Hunter was kind of there at the beginning of season 1, but his heart melted, and we need that again, and I think because of that, particularly seeing the time when, like, we see that there are two parts of her that I think stand out, and we see him acknowledge both. One is that she's a really good planner, and there are points at which he's basically like, yeah, you came up with a plan, let's follow that. Because he recognizes that's not what his skill set is. That was Hunter's job, and now it's her job. And the other is her heart, her compassion. And so the scene where she wants to go back for Batcher, and he doesn't want to, and he's almost about to walk away from her. But then again, with the very grumpy dad moment of he literally sighs and walks back to help her. I think because on some level, he's realizing her desire to go back and get Batcher is the same reason why he's going along on this with her, because she went back and got him, even though he didn't want that. So yeah, I just thought that was such a beautiful way of, again, without taking 4 episodes to do it, showing him come around to respecting and understanding her.
Yeah, definitely. And like, it just, I feel like reassures, because he took this leap, and at the end of the day, he doesn't know this girl that well. Like, if we're being honest, of course she's tried to get to know him, and he's like, no, get away from me.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was nice to have an episode where she can really just like affirm her skill set and be like, no, like, I'm going to get shit done.
Yeah,
for sure. What the Imperial captain who we saw, the one who she gambles with, and then only later he figures out who she is and tries to pressure her. Have we seen him before? Is he a new creation for this?
He's new.
Okay.
I think he's new. I mean, it's possible that he was formerly someone and he just kind of like became like he gained weight and became a glutton in the new empire. Like he could have been a Republic like officer of some kind. That's how I interpreted it. He was a very in your face symbol of like the gluttony and the corruption within the empire. And like, people like that are part of the reason the empire fell.
Yeah. No, I think that's something we've seen throughout the Bad Batch is this idea of, empires invite corruption. Empires invite people who are working to get ahead, not necessarily out of loyalty for the institutions. And I'm girding myself for the fact that you two children probably don't know this reference, but having him be all like, we're gambling, and then, I'm shocked to discover gambling in this institution. Anyone know what that's from?
It sounds familiar.
Casablanca, greatest movie ever made. Go watch it. But it's such a it's a reference to that, but it's also just this wonderfully beautiful irony, especially because all of his soldiers are like, yeah, this is what he does. He gambles, and if he loses, he's like, oh, you were gambling. That's illegal.
Give it back. Yeah, I thought that was very Empire, very classic,
Mm-hmm.
We see this all the time with them. We see it in Rebels. We see it in Andor.
Yep.
And you're right. And for the Empire, it's not the same ring as for the Republic. There is no loyalty.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all, like you said, it's all about money. It's all about I don't know. So I think it definitely shows that. And I think that also just further shows the difference between the Empire is so, it shows Hunter, not Hunter, I'm sorry. It shows Crosshair, everyone around them can be bought. It's just money. It's just a bribe. But Omega cannot. And Omega is I will do whatever it takes to take care of you. It's he's seeing what the Empire really is. And he's seeing what Omega and, by proxy, the Bad Patch really stand for. And I'm hoping it kind of clicks in his brain that the regime they thought they were serving is very much not what the Empire is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really true. And I think that you're right. Crosshair is someone who wants an institution to be loyal to. And he was loyal to the Republic. And then he was like, okay, this is now taken over. And we know there was a chip involved for part of it, but pretty early on, he had his chip removed. And he was just, this is the institution now. And, it's that irony of, the Empire burns up people like that and people like Crosshair are the people you most need. But instead you get people like Krennic, like this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was just interesting how everything is so money driven. Even at the Imperial spaceport, you can just bribe your way through.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is for the cause until there's a better reason to not be.
Right.
Because I was thinking about that as I was watching it the second time. It's this guy's about to take a bribe. These people could be serial killers.
Yeah.
And he's just give me the money and you're fine. Or I don't think we know their gender. But
the alert has gone out already about Omega and Crosshair being missing. And if this, they send out pictures to all these people. And I'm sure if this guy was really paying attention to his job, he probably would have oh, hey, this seems kind of like that thing I was told to be suspicious about. But it's only once he finds the shuttle that he starts to put it all together.
Yeah, yeah. He was I haven't seen you and your dad around these parts. That made me laugh. I was like, haha, Dad. Crosshair is just gritting his teeth in the background.
Really true. Really true.
Loved all the fun creatures we got to see escape. I loved just the Empire being taken down by a herd of ostriches. That was pretty really entertaining.
Fun. That was pretty fun.
That giant tentacle reminded me of whatever that thing was that Anakin fought on the slaving planet in the Clone Wars. Remember when he fought that big creature in the crate?
Yes.
Yeah,
it was a snail.
Yeah, that's what I pictured when that tentacle went out and grabbed him and pulled him in.
I can see that.
It could be so many different monsters. Star Wars loves monsters with tentacles.
Oh yeah. Now we land on, I don't know what planet they eventually get to, that distant remote moon, it looked like.
Lao.
That's the final planet it's called as well?
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, that was the planet we were on before, right?
Yep.
Yeah. No, so the planet that they finally meet Hunter and Wrecker. Omega, it's a tearful, joyful, reunion. And Wrecker and Hunter both kind of look at Crosshair with distrust, trepidation, but I also feel a flickering of hope. There's still some level of we hope that guy is still in there, but we will protect Omega at all costs. And if you are the enemy, we will not hesitate to kill you.
Well, so let's get to that. Let's first just start with she lands and then Wrecker comes out, because I think having it be Wrecker and then Hunter was so brilliant. Because Wrecker is, he's probably my favorite. I utterly adore Wrecker, but he's not the intellectual of the group. And in some ways, I think one of the things they kind of established is that in some ways he's the closest to Omega, and they used to go out for the Mantel mix. Thank you. The popcorn stuff, which apparently still isn't sold at Disneyland Galaxy's Edge, which baffles me. But talk about marketing opportunity lost. But although it's been fixed,
don't worry.
It may have been fixed by now. Who knows? But like having him be the first one, and this just wonderful, I was thinking about it as I was thinking, like, it's not cinematography. I don't know if it's art direction or who it is who made the decision to have all this happen on a dark planet where the two ships are kind of lit up, but they're far enough away, and they each have staircases coming down so that we see them coming down the staircases and then running at each other. And it was just this like incredible, like it, I see that. I'm so used to seeing that in a romance, but it didn't feel like this was wrong at all. It just felt like, no, we're showing that the same emotion can happen when it's like a family reunion. And it just, it brought tears to my eyes, and then they never stopped.
Oh, it was so beautiful. I was just like, run to each other. Yes. And the way he like picked her up and spun her around. It was just so sweet.
Yeah.
I did think of Aaron when Wrecker and Omega hugged. I was like, man, Aaron's definitely like tearing up right now.
Oh, crying in the club.
Yeah,
for me, when Wrecker said, "We crossed the galaxy 4 times to find you," and then Hunter said 5, I was like,
yeah. Well, and like I said, that's why I'm glad they did Hunter second, because because you get that great intro line. And also, and maybe I'm headcanoning like crazy here, but for Wrecker, I think it was just, she's back, this is great.
Yeah.
For Hunter, as literally the hunter, he's the one who is supposed to find her. I think he's got this sort of mixed thing about, on the one hand, he is kind of ashamed that he didn't find her, that she had to find him.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I think as the person who is helping her learn, tracking and all this kind of stuff, he is so effing proud of her that she not only got out, but she found him. Yeah. And I just kind of got all of that, that all that complexity was there. And that my hope is that there's a little bit of, he's kind of mad at himself, but mostly he's really proud of her, because what she did was pretty incredible.
Yeah,
totally.
And I do want to see at some point, maybe next episode, like we never really got to see like collective mourning of Tech's death. Like, he dies and Omega's taken like very close together. And so like, I'm sure like, they've all grieved on their own, but like seeing like a moment of reunion, like, maybe Omega sees his goggles that Hunter has or something. And like, there can be like a moment to honor him. And maybe that's like a moment that like they remember that Tech's gone. And maybe that's the moment they like look to Crosshair and say, we can't lose another brother. Like we can't let the past prevent us from like, moving forward together. And well, I don't know. I think that'd be a sweet way of doing it.
I was trying to remember, does Omega know that Tech is dead? And does Crosshair know that Tech is dead?
Omega knows. I'm pretty sure she watched it happen.
I don't know if Crosshair knows or not.
Crosshair knows is unknown. Either it hasn't happened on screen. I know that for sure.
Right.
So either someone in the Empire rubbed it in his face or Omega told him. We don't know.
Yeah.
But there's no way she didn't tell him.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're probably right.
In my opinion.
Right. Like in her little cell talks with him.
Yeah, exactly. Her little therapy sessions that he couldn't escape.
Right.
I mean,
we do never see on screen.
I could see that she might have thought that that's something that he needed to know, like he needed to hear from his brothers.
Could be. We will definitely find out.
Either way, I think, Alex, you're right that I hope it's not quite that easy, but I do think that the kind of shared grief over losing Tech will be part of what brings them together.
Right. Yeah, I don't need to be a switch, but like that could be like the catalyst to kind of get it all going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because at this point for them, what is their goal? Because
I was just thinking that too.
We, the audience, know about Hemlock and know about like the crazy stuff that's happening. But are they just going on the run now? Do they have any particular motive to try and screw with Project Necromancer, or is their just goal to protect her and get them all to a place where they can be safe?
Well, Omega has a goal, and she said,
I was gonna say,
she wants to free all the prisoners. Goal is to free all the prisoners. So, like, I think that
therefore they all have that goal now.
And yeah, because I think that like, she's gonna like they're gonna be like, no, Meg, we can't go back there, and she's gonna be like, no, we won't be free for real until like we get rid of Hemlock and we save the prisoners, and like she'll guilt trip them all to going back, obviously. But
Yep.
I can
Girl boss gaslight gatekeep.
I feel like, and this is because I love to just theorize. Well, we know there's another character, you know, that will be showing up soon, and this might be a way to like bring them into the fold. I feel like when she says free all the prisoners, that includes the prisoners she might not even know about, which are like the supposed, what we assume to be Jedi trapped in that, you know, little room that the Emperor was taken back into. And so maybe that's how we, you know, we meet some Jedi from the Clone Wars era or some other folks that like, you know, or maybe just unknown Jedi, but like, you know, people that were trapped there.
Okay,
and-
but what are the...
What?
I was going to say, what are the odds these people are just clones who are being experimented to become Jedi?
Well, they remember he made a reference to like the source material is being kept like in prime condition. Like he said that in like either the first or the second episode.
I guess maybe that would make sense.
So like my guess would be that like it's a Jedi or some force sensitive someone that's being we you know, folks, we did see an Instagram of Ahmad Best have CGI stuff on his face, so maybe it's Darth Jar Jar in there. We can't be sure. There's not a 0% chance of that.
I mean, the fact that Ahmed Best has literally played an actual Jedi makes me think the chance that it's Jar Jar again. But also, remember, why did we...
He said hashtag Jar Jar.
He did. He did say hashtag Jar Jar.
He also said hashtag Dark Lord.
Look, there are moments... Disney is so strict about... Remember, like, Tom Holland getting locked in a box before one of the most recent movies came out?
Times.
I don't think that he would actually spoil something like that.
There's no way.
No.
It's a joke, but it's a good joke.
Well, what I was thinking about, though, but actually Ahmed Best's character, I think, prevents this. What if Grogu is the one they have? But Ahmed Best's Jedi, whose name I forget, did rescue Grogu.
Kelleran Beck. But yeah.
Right.
He got Grogu out of the burning temple.
We heard all about Grogu's traumatic memories, and it wasn't about being experimented on. So
correct.
But I mean, they did know about, like, I mean, obviously the Empire knew about him, or they wouldn't have sent Din Djarin after him in the first episode of The Mandalorian. So like, it is not completely unbelievable that, and like, we are not to get too deep into it, but like, I feel like I tend to believe that like the experiments done on Grogu in early Mandalorian were definitely towards Project Necromancer. So like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they did indeed already have had him in a facility and they were trying to get him back throughout the coming years because they knew that like he was, you know, a good subject to use for cloning. But if they had him, they wouldn't need Omega, I feel like. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, but I think the idea is that they need someone who's a genetic replica who still carries the midichlorian gene.
Right.
Oh God.
I know you hate it. I'm sorry.
You're hurting Matthew.
Children of prequels.
I'm coming around. I'm not coming around on M count, but I'm just being okay. It was the phrase midichlorian gene that just even more so was like.
That's my bad.
No, you're fine.
I'll keep the M word out of it.
No. I mean, look, again, it's not at all. I love we talked about this last week, Alex, even though you weren't here. I love that you're so into this. And I'm really glad you get this. And I think a lot of our listeners are really into all the midichlorian stuff. And I know some genetic link has always been there because, you know, obviously Luke and the Force runs strong in my family. Yep. It's just the idea of there being a genetic connection to the Force. It just bothers me so much, but you know, fair enough.
I mean, I think that like something to think about, Matthew, I don't know if it helps, is that like, I think anyone could still be a Jedi. It's just that like, it is Force sensitivity is just also something that can be passed down through like lineage. Like, I think that like, I try to think of it not as like, I can still be a Jedi, I believe, somehow, some way. But like, it also is just like something that's also just passed down. And like, you know, it doesn't mean that like, I mean, like prime example is Luke is the son of like one of the, you know, most powerful Jedi to ever live. but he wasn't using the Force. He had no idea what he was doing. He was just a simple farm boy until Obi-Wan kind of unlocked that part of him. So like you could be like Force sensitive and just not really know about it, kind of like Omega is. And so I don't know. I think it's like okay.
There's some degree of agency still, to be sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
I'm just gonna groan about it, but mostly, this is what the show. This is the story the show is telling us, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, Alex, because you didn't get to be on here last time, and wanted to give you more of the microphone on this. We kind of tried to quote you, but talk a little more about why you are excited about Project Necromancer and M counts and all that.
Yeah. So I have always been fascinated by like a lot of the mystical lore in Star Wars. And I think being in the minority, I really did enjoy the Rise of Skywalker's exploration in like, the secrets of the Sith, and how it kind of opened the door to like learn more about everything from the Wayfinder to the fact that he was being cloned to the stuff going on in Exegol. And I think that specifically Project Necromancer fascinates me because as a kid watching like Star Wars, my dad always hyped up the Emperor as like this mysterious puppet master, this dark, evil, brooding force in the background. He like really built it up. Like he's like, Darth Vader's cool, he's the enforcer, but you're gonna meet the Emperor now. And like he made it very like eerie. And so throughout all of Star Wars, in my like journey watching it over the years, I've always seen Palpatine as this like really menacing being in the background that like which is like every other Sith, hell-bent on living as long as possible, but he, I think, really went the farthest in like, I am going to find a way to ensure that once this empire is built, that I will rule it forever. Like clones of myself that I can put my consciousness in over and over again so I can be an eternal Sith ruler. I don't know. It feels kind of badass to me. And like, just like, it makes me feel like, oh my God, like he's really been behind. And again, we can debate the merits of Palpatine coming back in episode 9 and all that. But in the end of the day, what we were given is that through 3 generations of films, the same puppet master has been pulling the strings. And it's just like a little scary that he's like that smart and powerful. And so Project Necromancer is just cool to me because it explains how like he got there and how he was so hell-bent on this and the way he actually eventually got himself to a clone that could just keep taking his consciousness and live forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. I'm really glad that you're getting that. And I think that is, it's not the story that I care about as much, but I think it's awesome that because I know you're not alone. I know you always say that you're in the minority. I don't think you're in as much of a minority as you think you are, especially in terms of this stuff. And, I think it's, for me, there's enough else that I really love in the story that I don't mind it that much, even if like every now and then a phrase is like, but like, yeah, I'm excited to hear more of your journey about this. And I really hope you will keep talking about it because I think that, and to our listeners as well, if the M count stuff is really doing it for you, if you're really into all of this stuff, like, please let us know, because I want to, the podcast is all about learning and different people's views on it and things like that. So.
Oh yeah, Matthew, the M count does it for me.
I was hoping you weren't going to say anything about that. It was pretty awkward.
I'm sorry. They laid it out. I took the low-hanging fruit. Someone's got to pick it.
Low-hanging fruit.
If anybody is a mature potential guest and does not have their mind in the gutter the whole time and understands that there was a time when people said it does it for me, just without it meaning that meaning, please write in.
Anyway, Erin is definitely not that person because her brain went the same exact place.
Same place right away.
I wonder why it is that I keep focusing on those grumpy male types who are guiding children through the universe.
I was about to say this podcast is really just Matthew, just grandparenting us.
Grandparenting.
I am not that old.
I'm sorry.
My hair is like an interesting shade of red. Thank you very much. I'm
exactly
your uncle.
Yes, you're the Funkle.
The Funkle?
Fun uncle.
No, I know what you mean.
That's what Wrecker is. You're like Wrecker. You're the Funkle.
I accept that.
You entertain us, but you will protect us.
Is Hunter the dad?
I'm very tempted to start singing some Parliament now, but I'm gonna pass on that.
So we have 2 uncles and a dad. Okay.
Parliament to funk, okay, never mind.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
No,
want the funk? Give us the
so
funk.
are we talking about the family tree? Because I'll go into the family tree.
Yeah, let's talk about the family tree.
Wrecker is
Please, Aaron.
obviously the funkle. Hunter is dad, father, papa, daddy. As we said, Crosshair is the estranged brother, estranged
I said
uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother / uncle, depending who you are. And then Echo is obviously mom. Mom is
Why
out
is
of town
mom
right now.
away? Mom's away.
Mom got things to do. Okay, she's a working woman.
Is she cheating though with Rex?
No.
Wait, hold on a second here, folks. Is Echo mom or
Yeah.
was Tech mom?
I think Tech was mom.
No. Tech
What
was not
Tech
mom.
then?
Tech was Tech.
Shut the fuck up.
I don't know. I've just always seen Echo as mom, but if Tech is mom to you, that's valid too.
I don't know. It was mom.
Echo is mom just
because shit. Like,
mom has
Right.
been.
So anyway, there they all are, and Crosshair starts walking down the steps.
Oh yeah,
I
never
loved
actually.
and hated that ending so much because the tension was so big. And I was like, and Crosshair knew it. He said early on, like, what is going to happen when they see me? And I was really worried they weren't going to give us that moment. And so they started to give us that moment and then ended. And I was just, I literally was like, fuck you to the television. I was so like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Ah.
I was like, are you kidding me?
And of course, it's brilliant TV making because now I can't wait for the next episode. But I was so mad about it. I was like, how dare you? Because what I'm afraid is going to happen is that the next episode isn't going to pick up right for that moment. It's going to pick up like a week later and they're off
and I'm
on a
going to be
mission,
so mad.
And we're going to be slowly starting to understand the tensions and getting flashbacks and like,
I don't know. I feel like they built it up. I feel like they'll give us something. I feel like it'd be crazy to just jump out of that moment. There's so much emotional weight there, and it's so important to like reform the bond.
I really hope they jump. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I think that like it's gonna start with the conversation, but to Matthew's point, it will take some weird harebrained quest journey for them to actually gain the trust back. A Crosshair's gonna have to like save them or make a decision to like, to get their trust back fully.
I mean, I do agree with you. I think having the next thing we see is just them working together without knowing how we got to that point. It'd be like just showing Ahsoka and Luke working together without seeing how they like first connected.
Oh wait, we got that though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. So that's why I'm a little distrustful. But I'm hoping. But yeah, what was that moment like for you guys?
Big and emotional. It was great.
Yeah.
It was. See, I had a slightly different reading of Hunter and Wrecker's reactions. Because obviously they're like, oh my God, Omega. And the moment she's like, I had help, Hunter's face was like, no, you fucking didn't. Like, he looked mad immediately. And then, Crosshair stepped out and they had that like moment of looking at each other. And you can see like Hunter's hand like balls into a fist. And like, to me, it looked like their little animated faces were becoming harder and harder. Like the more they thought about it, the more they stared at him. The way I see it, the more they blame him for Tech's death. Because they didn't even, at least Hunter, none of them were super on board with going to get Crosshair after he activated, Plan 88. Crosshair wasn't trying to get a rescue. He was just trying to tell them to run. And then, Omega really drove that. And I think that they see it as we really put our asses on the line for this guy that we didn't even think we should bother for. And because of that, like, Tech, who never did us dirty and was always there by our sides, is dead now.
Yeah.
And I know it's not a fair, like, conclusion to come to, because who's actually at fault? Saw Gerrera for blowing shit up. Like, that's who actually caused it.
That's a different discussion for a different time. But okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess that is
a argument you could have. You could say Crosshair's at fault. You could say Omega's at fault for wanting to get Crosshair. You could say Saw Gerrera's at fault. The Empire's at fault. But from that little bit of reaction we got, a big part of me is wondering if they don't think it's Crosshair's fault.
Yeah,
because
I
also,
think it's
if you
fair.
do draw it back to the start, it is Crosshair's fault. He's the one who was like, I'm going to hunt you guys. Like, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
the Empire wouldn't have cared that much about the Bad Batch if Crosshair wasn't there. Like, I think
They certainly might not
cared,
have put it together
like,
that Omega was with them.
yeah, exactly. Like, I think it would have gone a little more under the radar, but Crosshair was like, nah, these guys fucked me over. Like, I have power in the new Empire. I'm a commander. Let's get them. And did that for a whole season and a half.
To be fair, though, based on that logic, you can go a step farther and say the real person to blame is the Emperor. So maybe they band together against the Emperor.
Well, we know
Against
it doesn't
the
work.
Emperor, a bunch of clones?
Yeah, if they try that, we know it's not successful, unfortunately.
It's going to be a Rogue One situation, and I'm going to be mad.
Also, not to get into details here, but straw poll with just a thumbs up or down. Saw Gerrera?
See, Clone Wars? Most other times. That was a thumbs up for me on Clone Wars, thumbs down on most other times.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a brief, not rant, but a little bit. I'm going to get up on a soapbox here for a second. This is something I mostly talked about over on the Star on the.
Are you going to rant? Are you going to rant about Saw?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go. I'm here for it.
One thing I talked about a lot in the Superhero Ethics podcast when we were talking about Avatar is that I feel like, and it's a trend I've been noticing more and more, but with what's happening in the world right now, I'm a lot more aware of it. When you have heroes who are kind of vigilante, going like they're outside of the law because they're fighting against what they understand as a corrupt government, a corrupt empire, a corrupt, nation, whatever it is, a lot of the time they wind up meeting up with another group who shares their same goals, but from our hero's perspective is going too far. They're crossing a line. They're killing innocent civilians. They're taking risks that we're not willing to take. And like, those are legitimate concerns, don't get me wrong. My problem with shows like that is that too often they wind up saying that characters like Jet from Avatar or Saw Gerrera from Star Wars or so many others, the Phantasm from Batman, like whatever it is, there's a clear, bright line between the acceptable ethical ways to fight for justice and freedom and the unacceptable ways. And particularly as I look at what's happening in the world right now, in Gaza especially, but like in other places as well, I think part of why I loved Andor so much is that Andor was about saying it's not that easy. It's not that simple to just say, here's the good way to fight and here's the bad way to fight. Because, in Andor, our heroes doing things that we know were essential to the rebellion coming about and Luke Skywalker blowing up the Death Star. At one point, they held a gun to the head of a little kid and threatened to kill that kid unless the Imperial captain, who was his father, did what they wanted. And they blew up civilians. And Lucian, I think, is presented as kind of the, like, maybe he's the one going too far, but it's not clear because what he's doing, I think, rightly horrifies us. Mm-hmm. All this is just to say that then when I see people looking at, like, what happened on October 7th or, other things like that throughout the world, I think it's very easy for people to say, oh, there's very clear ways that it was okay to fight oppression and other ways that it's not okay to fight oppression. And I'm not saying that therefore that everything is okay. I'm not saying that we're wrong to place judgment on someone like Saw Gerrera or things happening in our own world or whatever it is. I'm just saying I think those lines are a lot blurrier than we like to think. And I think that Andor really made that clear. And that's why, to me, I'm a big proponent now of, like, if you don't like the way someone's fighting against having a boot on their neck, take the damn boot off their neck. And is Saw Gerrera fighting the Empire in the way that I would want him to fight them? Probably not. But I'm just it's a lot harder for me to draw a simple line anymore of being like, Bad Batch good, Saw Gerrera bad.
I get what you're coming from. And like, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think that my issue with Saw is not so much how he fights the Empire. Like, high key, I'm kind of all for just murder and explosions when it comes to the Empire. But I think I draw a line when, like, personally, I draw a line with, like, your actions are directly unnecessarily killing your comrades. Like, Tech didn't have to die. I don't know. Like, he had to die for character growth, I guess, of the other Bad Batch. But, like, and, like, Saw has done this before, and, like, I understand. And, like, I think back to Rebels when, like, he and Mon Mothma had that whole argument about, like, I need you, like, where's that fire? Like, you're not willing to go far enough. Like, you're not willing to play on their level. Like, then we're going to lose. But then there's the other side of the argument of, always like, if you stoop to their level, then, we're just as bad as them. And that goes to freaking real life with like, it's how Republicans and Democrats operate. And I don't want to get into all of that. My point is, I'm just mad that Tech died, and I don't think he needed to die. And so I'm mad at Saw about that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And I will say, I agree with both of you as you're saying, like, the thumbs up and thumbs down to Saw is not necessarily for Saw Gerrera. Saw Gerrera as a character, I support. Like, I'm usually fully backing the things he's doing. But for me, like, yeah, sure, murder whoever you want in the Empire. It sounds messed up, but sure, you can kill their families too. Like, do what you got to do, play dirty if you need to. But for me, it's when you found another group of people who are fighting for the same common goal, but they don't want to do it exactly how you do it. So I guess you're in the way. I'll just kill you too. Like, that's what bugs me that we often find Saw doing. Is just the lack of willingness to hear others and work with each other.
Yeah. He was going to kill Click Clack.
That's fair. That's fair.
Watch Geonosian, he was just going to kill him in the egg. He didn't kill Click Clack, and he wasn't willing to listen to Canon Ezra. And finally, when he listened, he was like, oh, wait, I can get what I want and not commit murder.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I think is so brilliant about the story of Saw Gerrera overall is, let me back up a second. We're getting into all the philosophy and theory here.
We really are.
And we'll get back to this episode, I promise. I thought it was going to be a short episode, but we're just throwing the doors wide open. Part of what I've always loved about the fundamental ethos of Star Wars is the idea of, if you hate the people you are fighting, there is always the danger that you will to some extent become them. That, like, hating your enemies can be a path to the dark side. And I think that I'm a lot less extreme about that than I was as a kid. And I think that, but that sometimes, like, yeah, I if people hate me, I'm hard pressed to say I'm not going to hate them. It's the, like, when you forget about their humanity either. And I think Saw Gerrera is the perfect example of that. By the time of Rogue One, Saw Gerrera has been he's been so focused on fighting what he hates instead of protecting what he loves, to quote a different part of Star Wars, that he just is that creature of hate. And that is, he's not a Force user, but I think that's a great illustration of how the dark side can work. And I think that all these critiques are very, very valid and very, very needed. But I think that just I just want to always keep that idea of the complexity and the difficulty there, because, like, even now, like, when Aaron was like, yeah, I don't care if you kill their families. I was like, but I also get where that's coming from. And I get that, like, to me, it's the brilliance of Andor it is, I don't like a story where it's presented to us that the hero can do everything they want without ever having to ethically compromise themselves, and that they can always say, like, oh, and that person was wrong and we're right. And because in Andor, I don't, of, like, the three kind of main political positions of Mon Mothma, Lucian, and Saw Gerrera, I don't think any of them are meant to be like, this is the one who's right. I think we're supposed to see that all of them are flawed, and they're all doing their best to fight this horrible evil.
I don't know, folks. Were you expecting a rant on Saw Gerrera and a quote from Rose from The Last Jedi all in this episode of The Bad Batch? You never know what you're going to get with us, so you got to stay on your toes.
You never know.
Star Wars Generations bingo. Okay, so let's pull it back to that last scene. Here's the thing I keep thinking about. What's Wrecker going to do? Because I could imagine easily that Wrecker, I think, is kind of more... I think he has a very strong intelligence of his own way, but he's not book smart. He's not, and he is not the most nuanced and complicated thinker, I don't think. But I could see him, therefore, coming down, like, I think Hunter is going to have a very, like, practical, you know what, you are my brother, you can help us more than anything. I don't fully trust you yet, but we'll see. I could see Wrecker, though, being like, he's our brother, we need him, we forgive him. Well, Hunter is the one who is really having trouble with it. Or that Hunter comes around and that Wrecker does, like, more dig in his heels, and he's like, once you abandon us, you're dead for me forever. First, do you think that that's accurate, that Wrecker would probably go to one of those extremes? And if so, which one do you think is more likely?
That's a great question. Because I could see it either way. You know, like the ideal Wrecker who's just like always down for whatever and like pretty happy. And especially kind of as we talked earlier, just his closeness with Omega would make you think that he would come to her side of thinking sooner. And Hunter, I mean, definitely tends to be more stubborn and broody.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I could see both of them. I don't really see a world where Hunter gets over it quickly, but I could see a world where neither of them do. Yeah. And Omega's really like white knuckling, like Captain America holding onto a helicopter to like keep this band together.
Yeah, I can see that.
For especially like a couple of episodes.
I do think Wrecker really follows Hunter's lead. And so I could see that like once Hunter has a change of heart, that could bring around Wrecker pretty quick.
Yeah. I'm wondering if Rex can serve as a mediator in the whole situation.
Yeah. Like Rex and Echo are gonna.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Rex is just. I can see Rex. I mean, I'm going to get so specific here, but like in my headcanon brain, I can see like Rex sitting them down and like giving them a speech of like, you know, I lost so many brothers during the war. You guys did too. Like, think about Fives. Think about like 99, who you are all named after. Like, think of his sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Like, do you really like, you know, he like, you know, Crosshair made some bad decisions. We all did. But like, are you going to let that make you lose another brother? Like, I would love to see Rex be like an intermediary and almost like a therapist. Like, Rex is like the dad of all clones in my brain. Like, and so I don't know. I think that. Really
he is a pretty old model according to Omega.
He's Generation 1.
He's Generation 1.
Generation 1 armor always holds up. So I don't know. I think that like Rex could be like the wise sage here that really kind of like helps guide them through this difficult time.
Yeah, and
I
think it could also be Echo.
It could.
Yeah, I think so.
Just
particularly with some like, you know, Rex was reminding me kind of like he could be like the voice of Rex in that regard.
Yeah. Because maybe we don't get Rex right away in this season. If we don't get Rex this season, I will flip a table. I'm going to be very clear on that.
Everyone calm down. If Echo's going to have to show up. It's the last season of the Bad Batch. And where Echo is, Rex is. So we're going to get Rex. Now, what I want to see is Cody.
I want to see Cody.
That's another conversation, but I want to see Cody. But also, Cody's probably evil, which would be a little sad.
What? Did you watch season 2?
I'm sorry. It's been a long time to watch season 2. Is he good? I can't remember. All right, Aaron.
No, I'll tell you. Him and Crosshair had an episode where they had this moral disagreement, and they had, you know, taken over. There was these people rebelling against, you know, the Empire's occupation, and they subdued all the people. And Cody's like, okay, we'll bring her in. And Crosshair's like, they said to kill her. And Cody's like, well, but she's unarmed, and like, we got her. And then Crosshair kills her. And then that night, Cody says something to him about like, weighing the costs of like what's happening, or like the fact that you have to live with what you've done. And then the day after that, Crosshair is informed that Cody has disappeared.
Yes, sorry. As you explained it, it all came back to me. I remember now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not have a chance to do a rewatch of Bad Batch before season 3. I've been so busy, but I do remember.
Yeah. Well, because here is after this, let's wrap it up because we've gone a while. I want in general these episodes to be about as long as the show is, and we're way over that. It's like in math, like the limit that you approach will never actually get there. But I do think that, particularly if the show is popular, which it looks like it is, Disney is going to wrap up the Bad Batch, but is going to want to continue to have animated content coming out on the regular. I think some show about like the Bad Batch may hang it up or may get Rogue One. Aaron, hold on to your seat. But I think something about Rex or Cody or some other part of the clones moving forward will happen.
That would be baller. I'm being quiet because I can't believe you said they'd get Rogue One.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, like, what story could you do? I mean, like, it's a period, like some more clone fuckery going on in the in between period during the Empire.
More
I think
clones.
there's so much to be told during this period. Again, the sort of stuff interlacing with what's happening in Andor and all that, but also just like I would watch a show that's just Rex, Wolf, and the third one, whose name I can't remember. Gregor hanging out and chasing those beasts on that weird planet. Like I'd watch that. Like
the Jupa, or what are they called? Jupa? Jupers.
You know what we need? The clone Golden Girls.
Oh my god. Oh my god. My mom would love to go to
That would
girls.
be pretty iconic.
If Rex threw a party and invited everyone he knew, the biggest gift would be from Wolf. I believe that. I believe that. All right. We are now officially off the deep end. Aaron, give us a couple of quotes you wrote down, and then we can wrap this up and move into our member section, where we'll be discussing the next story in Star Wars from a certain point of view.
Boop, boop, boop. So a couple of things I have here. When Omega gets him to agree to go and try to bribe the person at the spaceport rather than just shooting everyone, he goes, "Fine, we'll do this your way, but my skills are being wasted."
Mm-hmm.
And she hits him with a "noted," and then just moves on.
The thing is, if you're going to tell that quote, you have to talk about how it then ends, which is
and then
when...
at the end, I did have this written down too. She goes, "All right, let's try things your way." He goes,
as they start shooting at her.
"Finally," and then just fucks shit up. Absolutely destroys these stormtroopers.
Yeah, those are really great.
Another one I had here that I thought was just like an interesting moment between Omega and Crosshair, and very important for him actually, is when she's saying, "I've sent a message, we're going to meet them at this really remote location." And he said, "Omega, it's been months. You don't know that they're still alive." And of course, she's very determined. She just goes, "They'll be there." But if we think about the growth within Crosshair, to take a moment to try to prep her or almost like comfort her or put a single fiber of effort into emotionally being there for somebody else, like that's huge for him. And I think it shows the vulnerability and the connection he still feels with the Batch. Because he doesn't want them to be dead either, but he thinks that might be the reality, so he just has to put it out there.
Yeah, I think in that moment, he's comforting himself as much as her.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's preparing himself for it, but I think you're right.
But yeah, that's all I got. Other than, okay, I also wrote down, so Plan 88 is the Seeker Plan. That's what Crosshair called. And it just means you're being like searched for, hide. And then Plan 99 is a plan where somebody sacrifices themselves so the others can live. And it is, of course, named after 99, who died on Camino, sacrificing himself so that the cadets could live.
Beautiful story. Beautiful story. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both so much. Thank you to our listeners. As always, you can find us in all the places that we talked about. TikTok, search for TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, search for either The Ethical Panda or Star Wars Generations. Would love to hear from you. You can also email us. All the information about that, and especially about how to become a member, is at www.theethicalpanda.com. So on behalf of myself, Aaron, and Alex, thank you so much. Members, stick around. For everybody else, yip, yip, motherfucker.
Stay classy. Wow.
Isn't this better? No.
Yip, yip, motherfucker.
Look, I did that much on Avatar. I had to have some fun with it.